take it away.
Thank you all very much. I am currently, as everyone else has been saying today, in a place that's having a very bad heat wave, so I do also agree with the statement of stay hydrated, because I'm definitely keeping myself hydrated. Hopefully you all are as well. But yeah, this is Kiwami 2. This run is reasonably long, but there's a lot to talk about in the start, so we're going to get going. So, Tech, if you're all ready, we will begin as soon as I hit confirm on easy here. So, 3, 2, 1, go. So, this is K2, which it should be obvious if it's not. K2 is a remake of the original Yakuza 2. I'll actually be making a couple of references here and there to OG2's Speedrun, because actually, despite not showing it off, there's actually a lot of really cool differences, and a couple of those differences actually have kind of accentuated K2 Speedrun, which is really nice. But essentially, basic plot of the game is this is set a year after the events of Yakuza 1, surprise, and we're going to the grave to pay our respects to some of our old friends, and we're going to get the typical, usual Yakuza game move tutorial. Some of these move tutorials are frustrating, and even from the very start here, we actually have some speed tech. For this one, nice, simple, basic combo. Then we have the light strong, and then we have the one move tutorial that we very much do not like in our Yakuza runs, which is the double light into double strong, because for some reason, the last hit of the strong, sometimes it just doesn't work. For this one, you can get a little lucky here. We did, good. So very rarely that guy can actually attack you early. If we evade at the right time when we attack early there, that counts as a move evasion when it actually shouldn't. We're not quite sure why, but yep. And then we have to do a heat move, and with that we can then finish the tutorial. So, as you can see with the first tutorial, there are some enemies in these tutorials that will not go down until we have finished off all the objectives, basically. And that's going to be a thing for the next tutorial, but not the one after that, which we'll point out when we get there. The basic premise is that the person who took over the Tojo from Kiryu, he's unfortunately passed away after the little tutorial you just saw there. And it's now up to Kiryu to steady the ship of the Tojo clan and to find the next chairman. So I'm going to go to this vending machine. I'm going to buy some water and I'm going to buy some citrus cider. Once again, folks, stay hydrated. They are drinks with different properties, and we'll get into what those do in a second, because this is our next tutorial, which we have very, very tight timing on. We have to wait for this enemy to get his knife out to be able to grab him, hit him into those two so that they don't walk away too far, and then hopefully hit everybody with this swing right here. Sometimes, unfortunately, enemies walk away. This is a lot of the RNG that can happen in this run. Enemy positioning it can be a little frustrating. There's ideal positionings that we would like all of them together, and sometimes you're going to have to react to, obviously, enemies walking away. This is something that is not in every Yakuza game, but is in K2, where you can pick up weapons and store them in your inventory. This is going to make it so that K2 is actually a very weapon-based run. Weapons in K2 are very, very strong in conjunction with a specific drink. Now, if this looks like my menuing is slow, this isn't me, I promise. My menuing is not that great, sadly, but it's not that slow. We get tutorialized on learning new skills, so we have strong charge attack, which we're going to make use of in the next chapter. And we're also getting taught about, protective gear. You can get protective gear in the game. Obviously, they add a little bit of stats. There's actually gear sets you can get that, improve, either, extra, attack or defense, or do other kind of, special functions in battle. We don't get into them in the run, but we are going to be getting more equipment as we go through, and we'll point out when that is. But we have decided that the next head of the Tojo should be a young up-and-comer called Daigo Dojima. He is the son of former patriarch Sohei Dojima. And for this tutorial, we want to let off a charged light. Unfortunately, free roll. Now, the nice thing is we managed to get the... There's going to be enemies in. There's one on the left there. We want to get that one in the heat attack. That one's important because he had more of a HP bar than the others did. By taking him out with the heat attack, even if you somehow have an enemy alive like we did, it's actually okay because we can just then take him out just afterwards. we're now going to take a little bit of a detour away from the story, and we're going to head up to this vending machine up here, where we're going to buy more drinks. As you can see, this vending machine is green. Some of these are color-coded, so you can only get certain drinks in certain vending machines. This is muscle soda. This is by far and away the most broken drink in this game, and you're going to see why very quickly. I mean very, very quickly. Let me just go to the story. So, Daigo and his entourage are here at a club in town, and we're going to interrupt their evening because, you know, we want to have a nice civilized talk with Daigo Dojima. Daigo Dojima does not want a nice civilized talk. So, we're going to take the muscle soda immediately, and then we're going to start doing some strong thrusts. And as you can see, these enemies don't have that much HP, but they're very much going down quite quickly. So, now you're going to get to see, well, hopefully you don't see it in full, but you're going to get to see the big downside of Muscle Soda. Muscle Soda might have the most attack in the game, or the most attack in any of the consumable drinks in the game, but it has one big downside. It adds massive knockback to each of your attacks. So, if I was to hit Daigo here, he would go all the way down the alley, and I mean all the way. So what we're going to do in certain situations like this is a good Daigo, is we're going to basically push the person that we want to attack, like we did with Daigo there, against the wall, so that the knockback's going to knock him into the wall, and he's not going to fly literally a mile down the road, because that loses you a lot of time. This fight can go one of so many different ways, even though it looks simple. In practice earlier, we have had the bike that we were holding just explode in our hands. That's a feature of the Dragon Engine, which I hope doesn't happen in Chapter 3, because that will make things very slow. Hopefully you won't see that. But we finally have a nice talk with Daigo Dojima, and we give him basically Teruda's final message to pass on to the Omi Alliance. And we want Daigo to basically be the chairman, but that's going to come a bit later. For now, we're in the Omi HQ's, basically their turf. This is Sotenbori. Please ignore the dialogue that I picked for this man. I promise you it's the quickest dialogue option. Spin bike, muscle soda, and that's it. Fun fact, that guy in the original Yakuza 2, he has 4 HP bars. There's no reason why this man has 4 HP bars, but he just has 4 HP bars. He's a mini-boss. In this game, we can just take you out in one hit, thankfully. But for some reason in the original, he's very, very tanky. So, we're going to head over to the Grand. If you've played Yakuza 0, you'll recognize the Grand. This is the exact same cabaret club that is in 0. And we're just going to go and try and get into the VIP area. Essentially, we're just trying to have a nice wind-down evening. Hopefully, no trouble, even though there was just trouble. Don't worry about it. But after we took care of the guy with the bike, we met a interesting individual who goes by the name of Kurakawa. We're going to go back and talk to him now because he's going to help us get into the VIP section of the Grand. But on the way, we're going to grab this item. This is a gold plate. The gold plate sells for, I want to say it's 30,000 yen. My actual money amount is a little off at the minute. But we need a set amount of money in Chapter 4 so that we can skip essentially a back and forth fetch quest. It's a fight spawn. This fight spawn is okay. Fight spawns in K2 are actually kind of nice, as you can see. They'll notice you early and they won't immediately aggro into a fight with you. K2's fight spawns are generally actually kind of nice. It's kind of rare to say, because some of the Yakuza runs, they're not very nice. But K2's fight spawn's actually quite nice. This fight, the most ideal outcome is 2 hits, but it's usually more. 3 is fine. 3 is like the average of what you get. 2 is ideal, because usually, if that guy went to the right, we would have got him as well. But with the knife's really small attack range, they have to basically be together. We're going to be getting weapons with much, much bigger range coming up. And also your usual two-handed weapons, like the amount of bikes you can see on the street right now, they're all very good. But we're going to be heading over to Omi HQ, and we're going to be there for a little while, so whilst we're heading over there, Dark Soul, if you've got any messages, now would be an absolutely perfect time.
Yeah, I've got a couple. In fact, I will take this chance to talk a little bit about Date. Date's mission is working towards justice and equality for trans, gender diverse, and intersex communities. Aiming for a world that ensures that those communities can enjoy their human rights and achieve the highest level of health and well-being possible. anything else I can think of. Actually, yes. Datesport also falls under 3 strategic programmatic areas: human rights, health, and movement building.
Alright, cool. So this is Omi HQ. You can see on the way in, if the place looks like kind of like maze-like in its structure, yeah, it's about to be. We're going to be getting into a set piece very, very quickly here. And K2 has a lot of set pieces that aren't necessarily hard, but they're hard to be consistent in. And this is going to be the first. So, that man has a wooden sword. That's my wooden sword. At least it hopefully will be my wooden sword. For getting weapons out of enemies' hands, you have a couple of options. You can grab and throw the enemy if you can. It broke, didn't it? Yeah, that's the thing I was worried about. I'm going to take this dagger instead, because it's got decent attack power. But yeah, that is the thing I was very worried about. The wooden sword is very strong, because as you can see, the strong thrust here is enough to take care of these enemies, but it is with a wooden sword. Every weapon in this game obviously has a different set of, like, attack value. We would have lost the wooden sword after this fight anyway, but it is a shame when the wooden sword breaks. The way to get it, because there's going to be another enemy coming up in a second here, which, again, hopefully doesn't break. If you attack enemies with a light attack, like we did there, they can drop the weapon that way. If you grab them, they can drop the actual weapon as well. And there's a couple of other ways, but you have to be very careful, because, as you can see, weapons are a little brittle in the Dragon engine. So, that one should be fine because it's at the back, but essentially we have to be very careful not to walk on it, stare at it, talk about it. Basically, anything can break these swords. Even when they fall out of the enemy hand, they can actually also break when they hit the floor. It's a little bit RNG sometimes, but most of the time like this, it will be fine. This sword is going to last us for a little while. It has 12 hits left on it, which is good. If you get really lucky, you can actually get all of them with 2 hits, but again, it's all determined on RNG and whether the enemies actually like walk together or not. This is an unfortunate time to be muscle soldering again, but it will last for the next fight, which is good. So I'm trying to basically avoid being hit with these thrown knives. That way I can just go through these corridors as fast as possible. I should be fine to get through the next bit without an extra muscle soda. So, as you can tell, we're just going to hit all these enemies. Excuse you. It's a shame that I missed that one hit, because I could have used the sword to break this barricade easily. Barricades, as you can probably guess, 3 hits. Nice and simple. Now, our running strong charge attack is a 3-hit attack, which is obviously really good, because we're going to utilize that to hopefully break this barricade right here. It's really hard to do, because the first hit is very close to your hitbox. We're going to grab that sword. That sword's very, very important for the early game, and it's very easy to break that if we walk into it. We have just enough time to... That is one of the most unfortunate things I think I've seen in a long time. The person that I ran past, that guy, he managed to time a knife throw so perfectly that he hit me in the middle of my animation, cancelling it and causing me to get attacked. I have not seen that in a very long time. That's not lucky, but I think it might be. So again, dodge that one. And that's what was supposed to happen. That guy will also usually get you with a knife here. Now, this is the big RNG bit of Chapter 3. As you can see, there's a couple of enemies down here. Some of them have guns. Now, for the run and for speed tech, we would like to have at least 2 guns. So hopefully, we can get... Did that really only take care of the one guy? That's amazing, actually. My luck right now is not doing too great. I will grab this, because I will take care of you, and then I'll take care of you. And there is one enemy, unfortunately, back here. I see you. I see you. I have to take care of you. Oh, okay, the gun broke on the stairs, but I do know this one is here, so that's fine. Okay. So one there, I need to remember one I need to pick up later on. There is another good place where you can pick up multiple. At worst, you can go forward in the run with only one gun, but... Interesting. I was holding the cancel heat move button. It did not work. Interesting. I've had some interesting stuff with my D-Rust of this earlier. But that will be fine because our next hit, thankfully on Muscle Soda, for some reason, when we do attacks, our heat gauge fills up really fast. I assume it's a damage thing. This is Ryuji. He's the main antagonist of the game. I absolutely love this guy. That was a little early, but it's fine because you can rectify this by doing a strong attack here. Do the QT. And then we are going to... hopefully... okay, he actually behaved. Ryuji can do one of several things at the start of that phase, which is why I delayed half a second there. Ryuji can either go backwards like that and do nothing, which, as you can probably guess, that's pretty good. Ryuji has a couple of attacks he can do as well, one of which is a really fast kick, which you have... essentially, if you aren't dodging immediately, or you don't dodge it, like, at the start, you will just get kicked across this floor. So that's the one you gotta be careful of. And then he also does a wind-up attack that has a bunch of hyper armor to it. That's the other one that you have to be careful of, but you have a lot of advanced warning. And if you can get 2 light attacks out really quickly, you can actually interrupt that animation. But it's the quick kick that you've got to be careful about. He hit me with it earlier in practice, so... I was always gonna be just a little bit more careful with it this time. So, we're back in Sotenbori. Sotenbori is the second map of the game. We'll be here in 3 different parts. This is the first part that we'll be here at. 3 or 2, might actually be 2. We're delaying our Poseidon Power. I don't think I mentioned this Poseidon Power. You can see Kiryu's arms are kind of like flailing around. That means he's running out of stamina to be able to sprint. If you look at the top left, now that I've taken the Poseidon Power, you'll see there is a gauge there. That gauge indicates how long the Poseidon Power lasts, and whilst it's on, we have unlimited sprint. Vending machine drinks are very powerful. Very, very powerful. We will be upgrading... we'll be upgrading our sprint levels as we go through the run, alongside like other stuff, which you'll see beginning next chapter, actually. But you'll get to see what we're obviously going to do in terms of like upgrades and stuff. But at this point, a police officer named Kaoru came to see the commotion at the Omi Alliance and to arrest Kiryu. So... unfortunately, a bullet meant for Kiryu got her in the shoulder, so we're going to carry her to her mother's bar, Aoi. So whilst we go through this lovely walking section where we have to avoid all these NPCs so we don't get that many text boxes, Dark Soul, if you've got any messages, now again would be a perfect time.
Yeah, of course. We have $10 from Pochette with no message, but thank you for the donation. And I'd like to take this opportunity to remind people that we do have the Majima Saga incentive. We're currently only $50 towards that, so get those donations in if you want to see that at the end of the run.
Yes, it's a nice little add-on. It's about 8 to 10 minutes long. It features somehow one of the most infuriating bosses of this entire series. So, if you want to see a nice little playable segment of Majima gameplay, then yes, get those donations in. It will go into a very good cause. So, this is what we like to call the Chapter 4 shopping segment. Ignore them. We're going to be answering, with this man here, if we answer the top option, we get 50,000 yen. The second option gives us 100,000, but we don't actually need that much money, so we just don't bother doing, obviously, the menu for it. We grab this coin locker key. This is for an EXP book that will... it's a lot of NPC spawning. That will get us the extra EXP needed in case we don't get enough, because very rarely, or not very rarely, but quite sometimes, we'll actually not get enough EXP that we need. If we were down to 2 muscle soda, we would have had to replenish more muscle soda behind us, but thankfully our drink route is on the fast drink route. In this room under this sofa is a platinum plate. That platinum plate sells for 100,000 yen. Very, very important. It was a 150. I can't remember my numbers today. All I know is if I get the right plates, we'll be fine. We're going to go on this left-hand side here, down this small little alleyway next to some restaurants, and we're going to grab ourselves this coin locker key. This is a coin locker key for the blood-caked chainmail. Don't worry about it. It raises our attack at the cost of our defense. We're also waiting on 2 phone calls. There's the first. That's a good time for that first one. We're going to go over to Iwao Bridge. Again, this is just the part where we collect stuff, and then we're going to sell stuff to get enough money. This way, we're going to be able to skip a segment of this chapter. There is a sub-story on the other side of the bridge that we have just avoided. So a lot of this run will also be avoiding a lot of sub-stories. There's one in particular that we cannot avoid. That coin locker key is for a 36-hit oak wood katana, so that's obviously very good. We're going to be using it over the majority of the early game here. We're going to grab this gold plate here. This is the reason why we didn't grab it earlier, was because we're in a time waiting segment right now. I think it's like 90 seconds between each phone call, like in-game. Sell the 2 plates, sell the platinum plate. I was very off with my numbers, but you can see we have 477,000 yen. That is important. If you have 477,000 or at least above 440, you're good. And then we need to go to the pharmacy. Once we get the second phone call, we will be tasked with getting some bandages, which they're in the pharmacy. But weirdly enough, we can't actually get the bandages until we get the second phone call. In the original Yakuza 2, you can actually buy them early. And we can actually buy stuff for the next couple of chapters early as well. So K2 we have to wait, but OG2 you can just basically fly through here. So as you'll see, we'll get our phone call in a second. There we go. Perfect. Marathon safety, I'm buying a safety heal. Healing is, if you're a new runner, you can actually get a little bit of healing from the shop there, because whilst we would say that K2 is on the easier side of runs to learn, because obviously a lot of the Yakuza runs, we don't want to get any upgrades that we don't necessarily need. Health is not a necessity. We're also getting an item that's dropping our defense. So we're going to get to a boss later on that will potentially one-shot us. So we're going to be just a little careful of that. But with that, that's the first part of the shopping done. Now we've got an interesting bit, and this bit is fun in OG2. We've got more back and forth fetch quests whilst also finishing other stuff off. We need to go meet an informant who is at the Mahjong parlor. If this was OG2, I would be allowed to speak to this guy 15 times. In OG2, he gets so mad at you speaking to him so many times that he just gets into a fight with you. And then you can just go into the Mahjong parlor. Unfortunately, that doesn't work in K2. I'm actually sad they took that out. But in K2, we have to do this bit. Now, interestingly enough, we're going to skip a bit in K2 that OG2 can't skip. So between both OG2 and K2, I'd rather not play Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter is good, but not tonight, I'm afraid.
Oi.
So between OG2 and K2, you actually get the entirety of Chapter 4 in both of their speedruns. It's really cool. Junka wants us to catch something from the UFO catcher. We're going to say no. Junka's little girl, who is his cat, has been taken by some thugs. We're going to go get her back. That's a bad fight spawn that I'm going to take a little bit of an extra detour to get past. I could have gone to one of those vending machines or tried to push past, but considering this is a marathon, I'm not going to risk it. Down the Bishamon Bridge, this is also next to the coin lockers, where we're going to grab everything that we obviously picked up. But first, here's the guys who took Junka's cat. We're going to deal with them real quick. There is a very conveniently placed sign right behind us. Hello. And we are, of course, going to use Muscle Soda. If at this point you have one Muscle Soda left after you use that one, you are on the fast drink route. If you have no Muscle Soda left here, that's a little bit of an issue. So, grab everything that we mentioned earlier. Start running. We are going to... Oh, too early. We're going to use Sun Power, so we have a limited sprint. We're going to equip the wooden sword and the blood cake chainmail. That's going to give us, obviously, a bit more attack with the blood cake chainmail, and with the wooden sword, we now have a second weapon that we can use for the next couple of chapters just to deal with a lot of these fights that we're going to be doing. And basically, this is the guy that has Junka's little girl, who is the cat, and the cat is scratching him a lot, so he's just like, yeah, take the cat back, man. That locker key you can see ahead of us under the bridge, that is a backup key that's very good for newer runners. If you can't get the guns from Chapter 2 and Chapter 6, that gun right there, it takes a little while to get. You'd get it like the first taxi you went onto Iwao Bridge. It has 3 shots in it. So that one gun would be enough alone to be able to obviously do all the speed tech that we're doing in the run. But unfortunately, if you're like... With how optimized this run is, unfortunately we aren't able to pick it up because it just takes too much time. We would delay being in the right place for the phone call at the right time. So now that we have spoken to Junka, we have got the thing that we need to enter the Mahjong parlor. And we're going to go find the informant, Asaki. This guy. So we want to say, it's your call. And then pay. So that's 100,000 yen. You need that to progress the story. However, there is a secondary follow-up to this coming up right now. This is the thing that we're going to skip. If we have 300,000 yen, which we have 371,000 yen, we can just pay him the money and not do a big back and forth fetch quest. Cool. It's a Mahjong parlor fight. If there's anything we fear in Yakuza speedruns, it's the Mahjong parlor fight, because there's only one Mahjong parlor fight that's good, and that's Zero's. K2's is a little daunting, because obviously there's a bunch of enemies that are kicking a lot of furniture. We do need to take care of all the enemies. This guy has more HP, that's why I'm taking care of him first. This is where the Mahjong parlor fight can be a bit of a problem. It can be a little bit RNG dependent, because obviously it needs all the enemies to be together, but also it depends on whether you get knocked over by an enemy kicking some furniture at you. Plus, I don't know who would dare desecrate a Mahjong parlor. That's not right, that is. Not happy about that in the slightest. So, this is actually the longer way to go to get to where we need to go for the story, but we're actually being taken this way by an invisible force. If we try and go the other way, the game will stop us. On the way, we're going to be getting fresh muscle soda. Wait, obviously refill to max. We do need to go up as much as we can. When you do the optimized drink route, it is very, very tight in terms of how much muscle soda you use. And this is something that wasn't in OG2, but is in K2. It is the return of Cabaret. Unfortunately, interacting with Cabaret in any way, shape, or form makes that timer at the top stop. And once again, as I said, we're having a heat wave here tonight. I'm out of water. So I'm going to take my leave for about 30 seconds here, go grab some fresh water, and Dark Soul, floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Yeah, of course. In that case, I will just bring up this marathon is being presented by the team over at Fast Pace Events. Founded in January 2022, their mission is to promote mental health and LGBTQ+ awareness through speedrunning and to raise money for mental health and LGBTQ+ charities by beating games at a fast pace. You can find more information about the team by checking their Twitter over at twitter.com/fastpacedevents. And while Froob is still getting water, cannot blame him. I will also bring up that apart from the Majima Saga incentive, we also have an ongoing bid war between the Sonic Mania character choice. Knuckles is in the lead with $138, but Tails is starting to close that gap. So if you want to try to usurp Knuckles from the current main role, get those donations in. Likewise for Majima.
Dear oh dear. Yeah, this minigame is good fun. We actually really like doing this minigame. You will only get to see this minigame in all sub-stories, sadly. All sub-stories is a cool sub 6.5 hours at this point. It's really fast. Like, it's actually surprising if you consider like how many sub-stories there are in this game. But yeah. Yeah, this run has been like very heavily optimized by a lot of runners in the community over the years. Like from basically the main like route that we go from like point A to point B to the weapon route that we use being very tight at first. And the nice thing is, whenever anyone asks us, you know, which Yakuza run do you suggest starting with, K2 is one of them. And the nice thing is, if you get into some problems with obviously your weapon durability and how many weapons you've got left, the nice thing is you can just replace them. You can just like get into like any of the set pieces and just pick up a weapon. Like a lot of the weapon route, as you saw earlier with Chapter 3 with the unfortunate breaking of the wooden sword, there's still some good daggers in there. Like a lot of the nice things about K2 is if something breaks, you can just replace it. You can just fix it. And there's a very good set of weapons we'll be replacing stuff with in a couple of chapters' time. With the end of Cabaret section, we're going to be heading back to Kamurocho. Yeah, I like this minigame a lot. I like this minigame a heck of a lot. It's in a couple of RGG games. It's in Zero, it's in K2, it's in Fist of the North Star. Well, Fist of the North Star's version works just a little differently. It's also heavily RNG for all sub-stories in this game. But yes, with that, we can now head back to Kamurocho and finish off this chapter. This chapter's the hardest one to learn for newer runners in terms of like how much there is to actually learn. Because there is a lot, as you can see, with like all the back and forth, like shopping stuff we did. Everything else from this point onwards is pretty much just smooth sailing from here. So, we're going to start by heading off to good old Tojo HQ. Tojo HQ are kind of up in arms at the minute still with Teruda's unfortunate passing, so we're going to have to obviously deal with that, and this is where we're going to put into play the Daigo Dojima play of getting him as Tojo chairman. This is fine because there is a phone call here that will despawn those enemies. Despawning enemies in this game is actually relatively simple. All you need is a confirmation trigger, so something like a taxi or a vending machine. NPCs are not quite the same. They will not despawn enemies, they will de-aggro them. And we'll get into that in a bit. However, this is Yayoi Dojima. She is taking control of the Tojo's temporary measure. We have an idea. To get Daigo into everyone's good graces, considering he's quite young, we basically need Daigo to get the backing of someone rather influential who isn't just Kiryu. So we're going to go into the secret storeroom, grab a sword, and a certain dagger that belongs to a certain Majima Goro. Yes, that's the plan. We're also going to get one more tome. That's going to get us the necessary experience that we need for our next big set of level ups, which is actually going to happen when we go outside. Get to Kashwagi and Yayoi, and we're going to head back to Kamurocho to a place called Purgatory, which is where Majima has taken over. Unfortunately, this man is an assassin. Unfortunately for him, I have Muscle Soda and a wooden sword. So what we do is get the wooden sword out, Muscle Soda, take both of the tomes, we're going to go to our stats, we're going to get Sprint level 1, EXP gain 1 and 2, we're going to get our basic skills and get Weapon Attack 1, and as much attack as we can get. And at this point, we now do more than 1 HP bars worth of damage. That's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. That's also 2 extra usage of that sword. Ooh, okay. So I have to be a little careful with weapon usage as well, as I was obviously saying earlier. We're on a very tight line in terms of weapons that we use, so I'm going to be keeping a running total in my head of kind of like how many extra hits I've used in fights, because if I get too low, I'm going to require like a different weapon. This fight spawn's fine. One of the places you can't fight in is Bon Quixote. So when you go inside of here, excuse me, when you go inside of here, you can't actually get into a fight. So they just de-aggro. We just bought beer and underwear. Those are for Kaoru. She's woken up while we went off to Tojo HQ. And we're going to go and meet Kaoru now and go off to Purgatory. We're going to get into one of the nicest bits of the runs in terms of consistency to one of the biggest bits of RNG of the entire run. Something that unfortunately does demolish a lot of really good runs, sadly. We get interrupted by Kamaki's pupil? We do, don't we? Yes. So this is a pupil from Kamaki. He's our old move master if you ever played a Yakuza game. You know, you get a bunch of moves off him, like the Tiger Drop, etc. The Tiger Drop is in this game. We don't get it in the run. Mostly because, obviously, weapons and Muscle Soda are ridiculously overpowered together. But also, it would take a little bit of time. We don't actually get the Tiger Drop off Kamaki in this game. We get it in a different manner, and I'll say what about when we get that later. Kamaki is training. He does 3 different rounds of training. You get Extreme Heat for the first one, which Extreme Heat is pretty good in a couple of other Yakuza runs, like 6 and a little bit of 5, but unfortunately in this game, again, Muscle Soda is just so obscenely strong that we just don't need Extreme Heat. And we're going to go and see good old Uncle Majima. So, good old Uncle Majima here. He wants us to participate in the good old Coliseum. Most Yakuza games have a Coliseum segment. This is K2's. Fun fact, K2's lets you cheat. That's why we quite like it. In OG2, you cannot bring your own stuff into the Coliseum, but you do get given a weapon of... I think you get a weapon of choice, or you can... What we do is we take in some brass knuckles. There are no brass knuckles in this game. There technically are. Gary's... Shout out to Gary, absolute legend. Those are technically brass knuckles that he's wearing. You can get those as a weapon later on. So, technically there are, but not quite the same as the OG2s. And of course, we gotta fight Majima. Again, don't forget, Majima Saga is a donation incentive for after the run. Let's see those donations. You can see a good old Majima Saga. It's a nice short run, actually. So, importantly, hit him twice, put the weapon away. You can see I'm spamming the button there to put it away. Make sure you do the QTE. Lovely. Look at the damage. Muscle Soda also affects QTs as well. And with that, okay, I didn't put the weapon away, which is a shame, but that's fine. I'll just use up one extra sword hit. So that's me on 3 at the moment. Okay. 3 should be fine. If I get up to the level of like 7 or 8, then it's a problem. Now, with the Colosseum done, which is nice and consistent every time, apart from kind of Majima at the end there, we're now going to get into the inconsistent part. This is also something that wasn't in the original Yakuza 2. This is something that is in K2, first introduced in Yakuza 6. This is Clan Creator. Clan Creator is a RNG minigame. In 6's version, it's an attack the point one, where we have obviously more control over it. In K2, it's a tower defense one, where we have to defend the base. This is a little awkward in the speedrun, as you'll see. I'm basically going to spend the next minute going through this, and I'll show you obviously what we do in this bit. But Dark Soul, if you got any messages now, would be a very, very good time while I concentrate on this.
Well, apart from hoping that we do meet the Majima incentive, for anyone that's wondered about the music in between runs, we'd like to extend our thanks to Chill Out Music for that. If you want to check out the music label, there is a Chill Out command in chat, and you can follow the link to learn more. Apart from that, this run has been very entertaining, and so is the commentary, and I'd like to extend a thanks to Froob for that.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So for different waves of this, we're paying attention to certain NPCs. That's what I was worried about. I was too far to the right. We're paying attention to different waves so that we can obviously try and stop enemies from running through like this, because if that happens, we just basically have to deal with them. And this time I can get everybody else into position for the next wave at the very least. Initiative, if you would like to deal with them, thank you. I was going to say, you do have a baseball bat that has a wide swinging arc. Very, very useful. I do appreciate you using it. That is an unfortunate time loss. And this is kind of what we're talking about with the RNG of Clan Creator, in that obviously, if enemies get by, there's not much we can do about it. Like, we just have to basically go on back up and, like, stop them. Shout out to the gun guy for not just using the gun. It's actually really useful. So, you would think in this bit that Majima would be our best unit. Incorrect, actually. Majima is not our best unit. Majima's like our second best unit. He's got some unfortunate kind of abilities. So, that's nice and fast. Majima spins. Majima has this one spin attack, which is really frustrating, because that spin attack can actually cause Majima to not hit more than once. That's the one. That's the spin. So, actually, the person that does the most damage, we call him Grey Tracksuit Guy. Because, as you can see there, he just practically soloed the last guy. So, unfortunately, whilst Majima's off spinning who knows where, Grey Tracksuit Guy saves the day. Had to be quiet for the theme. That's your reward for doing Clan Creator, is that theme. The minigame is kind of cruel, because with most minigames that you'll see in Yakuza speedruns, we can actually quit out of them, and it says, would you like to exit the minigame? Clan Creator does that, and then just gets into an infinite loop of restarting the minigame, which is really upsetting, because we were like so excited, we were just like, oh, we can actually skip past Clan Creator. Nah, we have to do Clan Creator, unfortunately. And that is the end of that chapter. It's honestly a shame, because runs can basically just, unfortunately, be lost to Clan Creator. There's not much we can actually do about it, which is a shame. Like, as you can see, you only have, like, so much of a degree of control. And 6's is very nice, because obviously, again, it's, like, it's more attack the point. So, it's the enemies who stand there, and we can just, you know, we can do certain, like, actual stuff against the enemies that we can drag them away from their positions. Also, 6's last, like, 20 seconds. This one's lasts over a minute, 6's lasts very, very short. There's Yuya, good old friend of ours. He's got a sub-story for us, but again, we're not going to be doing his sub-story. This is not all sub-stories. So, we're going to go to Theatre Square to find Tamara. There is a taxi that takes us to Theatre Avenue, but we're going to be going to the alley instead. Theatre Avenue kind of puts us next to a sub-story. So this one's about the same distance, but we don't have to walk, like, in trying to avoid, like, a certain, like, NPC that's just standing off to the side. And as you can see with the Dragon Engine, there's no delay on mashing text. Let's go on the right-hand side here. He's a sub-story, so we're avoiding him. There's a fight spawn. We don't worry about that. This is an area trigger, so obviously when we walk into the area, that triggers the next fight. So if we were in a fight at that point, it would then get despawned by this. I would like to grab that cone. Thank you. So hopefully Kaoru helps. Oh wait, I was hoping to hit this guy because this guy has unfortunately got a bit more HP than the rest. We need to do all of this bit whilst this muscle soda basically lasts. We need to go to the Millennium Tower. And now this next fight is a little awkward. For marathon safety, it should autosave. Yeah, it'll autosave. Okay, good. I'm glad that autosave is there, because this... Oh, hello. That's not the fight I'm talking about. This fight. This fight has an unfortunate soft lock. It's really precise. Now, ideally, both of these two walk together. Nope, you have not been behaving for a long time, friend. So we're going to take care of you, and then take care of both of you, and hopefully we come out of this fight. Good. So, the issue with this fight, every so often, when the older Nishino brother is alive, or when either the older or the younger Nishino brother is alive, backup is going to constantly come into the actual fight. So what you have to do... This is fine. So... That's actually another bit of advanced speed tech that I can talk about in a second. With the previous fight, if the backup arrives at the exact point that you have just killed the final enemy, the game will get very confused and won't know whether to end the fight or to summon in the enemy as like an actual attackable opponent. That causes the soft lock. It is a very, very precise timing method thing, and it's very easy to hit when you get the bad pattern like that. This is the man in black. You will be seeing him a lot. A lot. But what just happened with the fight spawn outside? The fight spawn started up, and as you saw, we actually managed to get rid of it. In K2, when you get into the start of a fight, you have it's not exactly like a one-frame window. It's like a couple of like probably like less than a third of a second. You have this small space where you can actually like interact with like an actual object. And note to self, you do need a gun. Thank you for the gun. You can interact with an object like a vending machine or a taxi to basically get rid of the fight spawn. It's a very, very precise time. We call this gun corridor. You'll never guess why. Yes, you can just dodge. Yes. Yes, you can do that. That's the very quick way of doing gun corridor. Kiryu does not care about machine guns. He just dodges forward. Remember I said you see the man in black a couple of times in this run? Hi! It's impressive if you consider this is on the second floor. In OG2, he just kind of like casually climbs through the window. In K2, he drop kicks. Sure. So I'm going to use a little bit more of this sword going through here, and hopefully, fingers crossed for this, considering we used up a couple more hits on this weapon than we would like, hopefully we can get this guy's sword. Good. Very rarely, it can obviously break, it can fall off the side. There's a crowbar there, which is backup, but it's really hard to get. That crowbar can actually, like, get pushed through the floor. Ideally, I can take care of these sets of enemies in 2 hits. We now have 3 hits left on this Oakwood Katana, which is really good. You can see I'm going slightly left when going through doorways. That's because the sword adds a little bit of a hitbox to us. So by going this way, we don't have the sword break on us. Man in black is back once again. Wait. A little bit of a delay before being able to hit him in this fight. Keep him away from the boxes. Turn around, grab the gas cylinder, because clearly we're not done yet. Once again. Now he has knife shoes. So now his moves become blunt and blade, which is a bit of an issue, but it's not because I have a gas cylinder that I'm just going to use against him here. This is why, again, with the muscle soda, you want to push him away. That's unfortunate. Hello. This happens sometimes where, you know, enemies are very much in range of feel the heat, but they need a little bit of a reminder. This has been something since, like, OG2. It's not like a Dragon Engine thing or anything like that. Sometimes bosses just need a tiny little reminder in the form of, you know, a nice talking to. But the gas cylinder, we intentionally, like, obviously push him to the side. Yes, punching doors is faster. Should be mentioned, punching doors is indeed faster. But yeah, the reason why we go to the left, and you have enough time, even on legend difficulty you get given enough time, just to go to the side of the man in black so that your attack won't push him like literally the entire length of the room. Because that will happen. So this is our friend Katsuki. He was being held by the Jingwon Mafia, who, a faction that the Man in Black belongs to, and we're going to get more about them later. And our staff friend Date here, who is holding another detective called Karawa, we need to get them to our friend Dokimoto's. You should have, in terms of drinks at this point, 4 muscle soda, 2 Psy Power. If you do, you are on the fast drink route. In OG2, you can just go to the right. But in K2, we have to go the long way around. So, whilst we're running the long way around, Dark Soul, if you've got any messages, now would again be a perfect time.
Yeah, you got it. Honestly, we are still a good chunk shy of the Yakuza incentive. We still need about 200 to go, and we're very quickly running out of time. We've only got like an hour 15. So definitely get those donations in if you haven't yet. Which, speaking of, we do have $10 from Delta DUI. Always love to see a RGG game ran by Froob. Best of luck, this 10 goes to the Majima incentive. And apart from that, if there's any other runs you want to be excited for, we do have a Sonic block coming up tomorrow. So definitely going to be a good time. Lots of good runners for that. Definitely get donations in for the Sonic Mania territories as well. Also, we are getting pretty close to $1,000 already. Just a third of the way towards the goal. Be really great if we can hit that by the end of today's run.
Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you everybody who's supported so far as well. We do really appreciate it. It is all going towards a good cause. Also, don't be shocked. Date's a ghost. If you, with the PC version having a higher FPS, if you point the camera down, Date's coat goes higher than the console version, and you can see through Date. Date is a spooky ghost. I am sorry to spook you tonight, but Date is very much a spooky ghost. We're going to have a drink over at Bantam. We come and see some of our friends in Kamurocho. We then get a call from Kaoru saying that we kind of didn't tell her where we were supposed to be meeting. So instead, we're going to go get Kaoru from Dokimoto's, where once again the Jingwon Mafia are going to turn up. And thankfully, this fight goes very, very smoothly, very, very nicely. You've probably seen the memes of Kiryu with bikes, for example, but as an extension of that, most, not all of them, but most two-handed weapons are pretty potent in these games. Not limited to bikes, signs, and, you know, cables. Hello. So, we're going to grab this table on the left-hand side, if Kiryu would like to. That was weird. You only need one of the enemies to be actually lower HP here. That's not the one I was expecting to hit, but sure. With the QT, we'll get them both down to, like, really low HP, and then feel the heat. So even if it goes... Ragdolls in the Dragon Engine are fantastic, by the way. Even if, obviously, like, one of them is on, like, reasonably high HP, they both go down quite nicely. Ragdolls in the Dragon Engine are a phenomenal thing. Shoutouts to Yakuza 6 on PC. They're Ragdolls, literally Beyblade. They are fantastic. You will literally randomly come across an enemy that you will finish in a fight, and his body will spin off up to space. And I'm not even kidding about that. It is absolutely wonderful. The Dragon Engine is a wonderful thing. We love the Dragon Engine. So, we're gonna take Kaoru back over to Bantam, where they're gonna meet up with Kara and Date. Everyone else is gonna go, and then we're gonna get into a little fight with our friends here. If we had the bad drink route, there is one way to rectify it, and it is coming up after this fight. But again, this is another fight that needs a little bit of good luck in terms of RNG. Let's grab this bar stool, swing. Hopefully hit as many as possible. Very good first hit. Very, very good first hit. Very, very good. Usually, if you've got a bad angle, you have someone left on the left-hand side and someone left on the right-hand side. So you have to kind of, like, decide which of them you have to go for. But having most of them go at that point is great. At this point, we're at Upside Power. As you can see over there, that's the green vending machine we got the muscle soda from earlier. That would be the position that we go and get our backup muscle soda if we need any. But if you have 2 muscle soda at this point, you are on the fast drink route. We have 2 uses for it. We have one at the end of this chapter, which is, ironically, right now. And then we have a big, long, or like a reasonably long set piece at the start of the next chapter, which we're going to be taking down a boss with. So, this is Granny White. She is a sub-story. We can't avoid the start of her sub-story. In OG2, you can. In OG2, Granny White is a NPC walking around. She stays behind Serena at the back here, so you can actually avoid her in OG2, but we cannot in K2. Her cutscene marker, as you can see, just takes up the entirety of the street. So, we do have to do her at some point, so we do her there. And with that, that's the end of that chapter. And the next chapter... Next chapter is probably the hardest one in terms of consistency in this run, because there's essentially 2 set pieces here, and the first one's pretty reasonable, but the second one is frustrating. The second one is very frustrating. So, we're gonna go see our old friend, the florist. He set up a giant surveillance network across Kamurocho in the first game. He's now working with the police, so we're gonna go and see him. He's gone over to the Millennium Tower. So over we go. This is where we're going to get a follow-up email from Granny White. With Granny White's sub-stories, there are multi-part sub-story. Every single email comes in a specific location. This is unfortunately where Granny White's first email comes from, so we do have to get rid of that for now. Again, if this is all sub-stories, we deal with Granny White later. She has gone over to Theatre Square. Okay, so this is going to be our next big level-up section. So, with this, a couple of masked intruders are assaulting the basement of the Millennium Tower. We're going to go and stop them. We're going to use the wooden sword. The rest of the wooden swords, 6 hits is good. We'll use that for Hayashi. Start with this one. Now, every enemy, we're going to get weapon 2. Where are we? Weapon 2. And then attack up to 130. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every enemy in this bit is going to spawn behind us. Unfortunately, that may have delayed me a little too much. Nope, this should be good. And there's the last one. Okay. So by doing camera trickery, we can get the enemies to spawn in positions that we know they'll be. You will run forward, which is a shame, because you should have ran forward earlier. Good job, Karu. Holding him there is good for us. Alright, with this, we now fight our next boss. This is Hayashi. If you played Yakuza 1, you might recognize this lad. So, we're going to take care of Hayashi in a very specific way. Sword, heat attack. Then we're going to do the same thing we did against Ryuji, where we're going to do a strong attack as he's standing up. Look at all that damage. Do this QT, look at all this damage. At this point, I am spamming down on my D-pad to put my weapon away. Sometimes you'll get time in between phases here to do it, sometimes you won't. Actually, it's just going to rip 2 scalding hot pipes off of that. That's pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. Maybe I have to say that about Hayashi as a character, but that's pretty cool. So unfortunately, Hayashi and this attack right here can just go through every single one of your attacks. However, we do actually have a way of dealing with that. Our charged light attacks have mass hyper armor on them, and will interrupt Hayashi. So that's why we put the sword away. This is the one QTE... Well, actually, it's not anymore. This is one of the only QTs in the game that you do not want to interact with. If you interact with it, you'll keep punching Hayashi, which... normally, yes, but not in a speedrun. That's the end of Hayashi. Not in a speedrun, I'm afraid. Gotta go fast, so Hayashi gets off lightly. See you in Yakuza Dead Cells, Hayashi. that video game. I actually like that video game. I like that video game a lot. So with this, we are now, as you can see, situated right next to the green vending machine with 0 muscle soda. We no longer need any Poseidon power for sprint, because we have enough, or we will have enough. And then we're going to go over to the hard set piece. We're going to go over to Shangri-La. Again, not hard in terms of difficulty. I'd probably put it up as like the third hardest set piece for difficulty. But in terms of consistency, it's probably number 1. Okay, I'm a little worried about my weapon hits, but I think we should be good. How many do I have? 12? That's fine. 12 is fine. We basically need all of our weapons to last for this set piece. So, light combo will take care of those 3. Go through here. This will leave us on 6. I want to get a right angle here to get the door as well, because that'll make me go through it faster. Crowbars. I didn't mention this with the crowbar earlier. Crowbars are very good. They have very short range, but their damage is absolutely absurd. Their damage is really, really good. So we're going to go into this room, take care of this guy first, then the one on the right. You might think we'd take care of the 2 on the left. If you can get a good angle, you can get the both of them at the same time and hit them into that barricade, which I didn't get a good angle. Take care of you, take care of you. Good double. Double, break this, throw this one, grab this one, put it away, go into the room, grab this one, start swinging. Keep an eye on your attack that you've got left, because it will run out. Be very careful not to attack that guy into that sword. That one in the corner, we do need that. Break this, hit this corner so we can throw the crowbar. Take care of that guy, go back here, grab the sword, run backwards. Break through this barricade, put the sword away. Very fast-paced, this set piece. Run up here, you know what to do when we get to the door. Punching doors is faster, as you know. I love that Aspiteki's punched the door. It's so cute. As you might have just seen in the cutscene, there's a crowbar behind us. So turn around, grab the crowbar. Grab the crowbar, please. Thank you. Avoid everyone here and go down here. Being a bit delayed is a little worrying, so I'm going to dodge the shot first. And now hopefully everyone gets together here, as you can see. So we can just take care of them with a couple of strong attacks with that crowbar. Through the door to this guy, strong attack him and break through at the same time. This next enemy is the biggest pain in the backside in this entire set piece. He has 2 HP bars and the most amount of dodge of any enemy here. If we can get to him quick enough, we can just take him down very quickly with 2 hits. Try not to hit that crowbar in the corner. If you do, there's a backup crowbar behind us, but it's a bit further away. Put that away, punch the door, and then run over to this door, which we don't punch this door. And there's Daigo Doji. I think I got 6 hits of my wooden sword, which should be enough. Jazz the guy in front of this fight, because he's annoying. He's probably going to kick me. He didn't. Thank you. That guy. Okay, that'll do. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. That room can get out of control if you let it. In OG2, that room is single-handedly the hardest room in the entire game. In OG2, any enemy that has a gun, of which there's 2 of them in that room, they literally run in-game over 100 miles per hour. Their damage as well is like 2/3 of your HP bar with 1 shot. That room is terrifying in OG2. I cannot explain how scary that room is in OG2. But with this, we are going to go to Tojo HQ, and we're going to go and see Teruda's funeral. It's about time we went to obviously have that. I'm going to get into a little bit of trouble with Ryuji Goda's lot, the Goryu clan. He's apparently come to pay his respects, and that's going to turn into a fight somehow. But if you remember Hashimoto from Chapter 2, yeah, he's found a sword. He's found a sword, and he's very frustrating and very annoying. Wooden crowbar gun. That sounds like a weird incantation I'm making, but that's the weapons that I need to remember to equip for this next set of chapters. So basically we have like a couple of times where we equip new weapons, and that's why we want to basically be counting like our hits on our weapons, because we know basically, you know, where we're going to do our new ones and how long we need these weapons for. You basically break it down into like 3 bite-sized chunks. So wooden crowbar gun. So you'll get to see the first of our speed tech. So, Hashimoto is the guy with the sword in front of us. Aim for him first. You must get rid of him ASAP. If you don't, he is going to become a problem. This man can literally lose 20 seconds in the run, up to 30 seconds. Good. Unfortunately, what's not good is that Daigo Dojima is helping. Daigo Dojima in both OG2 and K2 in this fight, Daigo helps by attacking the enemy, and unfortunately by attacking the enemy and pushing them away, Daigo Dojima does not help. In OG2, you have to get your HP into critical range to be able to skip the boss of this chapter, and if Daigo punches the enemy away, the enemy will counter, you will miss your attack because they're really far away, and you will get hit by the guy with the sword. Daigo Dojima does not help. But basically, the Omi Alliance is now in Kamurocho. They're stirring up a little bit of trouble, and they've been stopped by one Majima Goro. So, whilst Majima and Kaoru deal with the Omi, we're going to head to Tojo HQ for a little bit of a set piece. And this set piece is a little scary, as you will see when we get there. So, what you'll see I did there, as a just in case, I walked into the entrance of Donkey, because if you remember what I said about Don Quixote earlier, if we walk into the entrance, it de-aggroes any enemy spawn, and you can get an enemy spawn quite rarely sometimes down the bottom path. So, this bit, you have to go slow to go fast. You'll see the enemy HP bars are appearing early. I'm going to muscle soda. Now, we must not take care of all the enemies in this bit before the logo disappears. If we do, the game soft locks. So we have to be very careful of that. Basically, the hitbox of these tables doesn't appear if you take care of them before the logo disappears. Ideally, I would have had one of the wooden swords from the enemies, so I would have to use mine. Excuse me, sir. Thank you. And just take care of all the enemies. This is the annoying enemy, this one right here. And you want to be careful of him. If you are holding a... Oh, this is important as well. I didn't mention this earlier. If you're holding any weapon that is not one of yours, so not one that we put into our inventory, that weapon will get knocked out of your hand if you get attacked to the floor. That is very, very important when you're holding any other kind of weapon. Hey, note to self. You need to do a level up here. I keep forgetting to do this one. There should be sprint-free quick-step weapon max. This is Shindo, also from Yakuza 1. We're going to grab this sofa, and in the middle of me swinging it, I'm going to drink a soda, go to my stats, I'm going to get to... Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Sprint level 3, weapon max, quick step cancel, and then as much attack as I can get. That does that much damage. So, at this point, want to be very careful. Do not throw the sofa. Either get your sword out with whichever button you equipped it to, or put it down on the floor with down D-pad. That way, the sofa won't break one of the sofas at the back of the room, which is important for later. Shindo stores up, in this phase and the last phase, a dodge or a guard. Because of that, if we just do an attack against him, heat attack against him there, he's on 1 HP. Now, unfortunately, Shindo is going to do the same for outside here, despite him being on 1 HP. Once again, he needs a little gentle reminder that he's in his Feel the Heat stage. Punch the door with the gun. We're going to go outside, and unfortunately for Shindo, he cannot dodge or guard when I'm in this doorway and I have a gun. That is the end of Shindo. That is Shindo's skip for K2. Shindo's skip for OG2 is a lot more involved, is a lot scarier, and is one of the hardest tricks to pull off in that game. And in most Yakuza runs in general. It's actually genuinely very scary. If you mess it up in OG2, you get this cutscene, but it's in OG2, it's actually double the size of this one. Like, it's over a minute long. So you lose like 45 seconds in OG2 if you mess up Shindo skip. And the difference in HP that you need to perform Shindo skip in OG2 is literally 1 light attack. It is that tight in terms of HP. It is really, really hard. So, it's not pixel perfect, but it is very close to being so. And don't worry about the claret, Shindo's fine. He just had a lot of wine, we were just helping him basically get rid of the rest of the bottles, don't worry about it. So, we're gonna head back upstairs and go and see our friends. I'm gonna go through the door and, you know, don't mind me taking a fresh muscle soda, there's no reason for that. Oh, I need to dodge. Ah, see, there he is, he's fine. Don't do what you did earlier, young man. Stay there. Thank you. Very rarely, this happened in my D-Rust earlier. Very, very rarely, Shindo moves. Shindo is supposed to stay stunned on the floor. Shindo moves, and if Shindo moves, he has full reign to do whatever he wants to do, which is be a menace. So, thankfully, the vast majority of the time, like 90 to 95% of the time, Shindo will stay on the floor. That is what Shindo is supposed to do. If Shindo is allowed to run around, he can actually attack you and lose you like a good 5 seconds through 1 attack alone. It's really frustrating. So it's very, very nice when Shindo behaves. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of back and forth stuff that we've got to do in this chapter. We got to go see the Florist Sun. It's an ongoing story arc from Yakuza 1. It's a good fight spawn because it's going to the left. I can just avoid, obviously, where this is going. So, whilst I run around the entirety Almost went one step early. Whilst I run around the entirety of Kamurocho for a couple of minutes here, Darkseid, have you got any messages now? Again, would be a perfect time.
Yeah, I've got $30 from Rujasu. Froob is putting on a clinic as always. Thanks to everyone who's been watching and helping make this event go so well. Also, we're even closer to 1,000. Let's see if we can finally break that barrier. And just enough of a reminder, we are an hour away from the Majima incentive closing. So if you still want to see Majima Saga, definitely try to get those in before the run ends.
Yeah, it's a good little like 10-minute chunk of Majima gameplay. You'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy it. Everyone always loves good old Majima. We have some very harsh words for Majima Saga for the speedrun, because the final boss of Majima Saga is one of the best counters in the entire series, and he's stuck as a side boss. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. But in this bit's one of the bits in the run that's undergone quite a few changes over, obviously, the years of running this game. We used to have, like, Poseidon Power here to have to make it through this bit. Obviously, with Sprint Level 3, we can now make it through the entirety of this bit without needing any Poseidon Power, which obviously stops having to replenish our Poseidon Power earlier in the run. We used to get, like, a Muscle Soda, like, refill here, but both of there's kind of two drink routes. I'm doing a bit of an older drink route. Because I'm a bit more consistent with the older drink route than the newer one. But, oh, hello. Hello, this just came out of bar shell like themselves. The nice thing about, like, either of the drink routes is that we don't get a drink refill here anymore. Basically, this is the florist's son. He doesn't know that the florist here is his old man, but his old man is doing him a favor. The florist's son thinks that his fiancée doesn't want to be in a relationship anymore. She's seeing some other man. She's seeing her father. He's being silly. So, that's now resolved. So, we're now going to head back to Sotenbori for a good couple of chapters. And this is going to be our last visit to Sotenbori. We're going to be there for probably a good 20 minutes or so. 20-25 minutes. And this is where there's going to be one of the biggest differences between OG2 and K2. It's honestly a shame that we can't show it off in, obviously, K2. But there's a lot of people... What a lot of people don't know is there's this entire segment of Sotenbori, this entire district, that was only in the original Sotenbori on the PS2 Yakuza 2. It's never been remade in any other version of Sotenbori ever. And it's a shame because you obviously won't get to see it tonight either, but it's so cool. It's just really, really cool and just adds like a nice atmospheric vibe. As long as you're around 77,000 at this point, you are pretty good. We need 30,000 yen to carry on the story in chapter 10. It should be the next chapter, actually. We're looking for Kaoru. We're obviously going back to the bar. We know where she is, but with Yakuza games, they don't want you breaking past where the story wants you to go. We've got a couple of out of bounds in Zero, K1, and we also have a sequence break in Yakuza 4, but unfortunately, none of them have any practical properties to them, because the game really wants you to go via the milestones, via the waypoints. So, unfortunately, we don't have any practical use for them, which is a genuine shame. It would have been cool to say we have an out of bounds in a Yakuza run, but unfortunately not. So, we need to be very careful in Stigil. Want to talk to the bartender. The guy to the right is part of the comedy duo. They're over several Yakuza games. If you play through these games and do the sub-stories, you'll see them, obviously, a couple of times. If you accidentally speak to him, you get into a fight as soon as we leave, which is a pain in the backside. Use up a little bit of time. So, note to self, Crowbar is on up D-pad. Kaoru is here. And for the rest of the chapter, look at how beautiful this looks as well. This is based on the real-life Dotonbori. Honestly, the place is absolutely gorgeous. So, let's fight Crowbar. Again, RNG is going to be the three enemies behind us. The enemies all have, obviously, like, stun guns. That's unfortunate. I was hoping to get the both of them there. Attacks with the crowbar aren't that important. They are, but they're not, like, super important. One extra one there is not going to make any difference. But it's more going fast by hitting multiple enemies at the same time. Which, that is just a little bit unfortunate. So, we need to be very careful. We're back on the bridge here. That guy on the left-hand side, he's appeared in the last couple of chapters. He's a sub-story. that guy on the right-hand side, he's a sub-story. So we have to follow a reasonably open line through the middle there to be able to actually avoid both of those sub-stories. And then we're going to carry on with this, what seems like small fillery plot, but actually isn't. So, Kiryu's tattoo was done by a very famous artist in Kamurocho called Utabori. This is the tattoo master here in Sotenbori. He's having a little bit of a dilemma because there is a war of succession going on. He wants to give it to, I believe it's Akina here, but it's very rare that there are, like, there's this really weird, like, subplot here where it's, like, very rarely, like she'll get picked as, like, the actual successor, but he wants to pick her, and the other guy here, Satoshi's gotten, like, really jealous, so he's stolen this one tattoo design, but the tattoo artist himself is really worried about that tattoo design, because it is the tattoo design of one Ryuji Goda. That's how it all ties back into the plot. So we're going to use a crowbar. That's it. We're just going to use a crowbar, and hopefully everyone stays reasonably together. 3 hits is okay here. You can get lucky and get 2, but 3 hits is fine. As long as everybody stays reasonably together and you can at least get multi-hits with every single hit, that's fine. I could have walked a little bit more forward before I did my first hit, but it's still fine. It's very, as I said, this run is very, very optimized. As you can see, fights go very, very fast. So this is Chapter 11, and this is the one that in OG2 takes place in a completely different city. Or like a different part, different branch of Sotenbori. Because of that, the way that this chapter plays out, the story is completely the same, but the way that things play out is very different. I need to remember a certain passcode, which might be 110, 100, 109, 5824. It might be. I'm not quite sure yet. I want South Shotokucho. This is going to avoid a sub-story that we are going to do in the next chapter, but we don't want to do it just yet. This is the person we need the 30,000 yen for. He tells us where to go to find our next spot. West Yofukucho. It's a lot faster than it is in OG2 because everything is a bit more centralized in Sotenbori and obviously has taxi spots near it. And we go down here again where there is a phone number to call here. As said, 110, 100, 109. Into the back where there's a safe. So, the solution of this safe is actually on the shogi boards outside, and that's a nice little throwback to OG2, because in OG2 you had to win a game of shogi. Now the nice thing is, if you didn't know how to win at shogi, you could pay off a nearby Yakuza 10,000 yen, and he would cheat the game for you, which is obviously what we do in the speedrun. Note to self, saw. Note to self, also soda, and saw. Then we get to fight this guy, who has a really cool fight theme that you only hear here. So, yeah. So, he'll take 3 hits with the sword. There you go. Not too hard, thankfully. As I said, the saw is going to be very good in kind of our middle to late game for this run. It's one of the biggest damaging weapons we can get until the finale. And now we got to go find Santa Claus in the beginning of July, folks. We got to go find good old Santa. And here he is. Jolly Saint Nick, the Yakuza. Let's ignore that part, shall we? But he takes us into this hidden shogi parlor here, where we're going to get a little bit of background on the story, where essentially these are, obviously this is the Jing one, but we have the, I keep always menuing here to attack when I don't need to. Sim, please no. Thank you. A sim can be a problem if you miss your second hit, as you can see. But essentially there was a big attack on the Jing one in Kamurocho back in the early 80s. And yeah, essentially Kiryu realizes he was a part of that, and that's going to lead into a lot of the next chapter. Kaoru's going to head off, kind of sad, because she's learned that her mother was actually one of the surviving members of the Jingwon. You can see Kazuma on the bottom right there, off to said Jingwon raid. As we said, Kiryu was there. Kazuma actually let them go. And yep, unfortunately bad things happened. Unfortunately more bad things are going to happen, because sad Kiryu in Rain is about to be stabbed. So this bit is going to be a bit weird looking. It's going to look like I'm moving all over the place. I'm not. To simulate the fact that Kiryu spilled some red wine on his jacket, ruining a very perfectly good jacket, we're going to be moving back and forth because the game's going to be essentially moving like we're drunk. In this bit, we have to be careful of fight spawns. You can see one on the minimap now. And also lampposts. Lampposts can teleport you backwards. Don't ask. It's also the one time the game heals you, so we don't want to hit any NPCs. But whilst I'm slowly, drunk and walkingly down the street, Daxon, if you've got any messages, now is again a perfect time.
Yeah, I think we got something here. We have $30 from Bored and Confused. Did we break 1K? Yes, we did. And in fact, we did in fact break 1K. So thank you to everyone for your donations. We're just about halfway towards the Majima Saga incentive currently. And we're just a little over halfway through the run. So nice timing so far. Keep getting those donations in. Type exclamation point donate if you want to know more, or if you're on your phone, if you scan the QR code of your phone, you'll be taken to the page that way. Definitely, yeah, definitely remember to set the target and poll if you're trying to actually go for an incentive.
Yeah, no, thank you all for hitting 1K. That is absolutely massively appreciated. If you played Yakuza, you might recognize this lady. It's the Libertarian. This is the one sub-story that's unavoidable because we need to use this taxi a couple of times. I did not swing the bike, which is a shame. We're doing our last level up here. We want to get our attack to 174. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's why you want to swing the bike first. Sir? Sir? Sir, I'm on a bit of a time schedule. Thank you. So, the bike will take care of him in one hit. Even your weapons on the street have different attack values. As we said earlier, and as you can probably guess, two-handed weapons, like signs, etc., etc., they're really good. They are absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, I didn't get my swing off. Which might mean I have to take an extra muscle soda here, but that's fine. We do have one spare muscle soda. I'm going to go into the golf center. Yeah, there's usually a fight spawn here. That was weird. His hitbox didn't turn up. Yeah, I'm going to have to. That's fine. Again, as long as we have our muscle soda on, we can take care of him, as you can see, in 2 hits. If we were using the wooden sword, it would take 3 hits. This is how optimized we've gotten this run, is to obviously use specific weapons at specific times so that we can get through fights faster. I'm going to meet up with our old friend Kurokawa. Before we figured out weapons were good in this run, we had a good old strat with Kurokawa, and it's a shame we don't do it anymore for speed. We're next to a river. There's a special heat move you can do with Kurokawa, or like any enemy here, where you can throw them in the river. They give a nice, hilarious face. It's genuinely a shame that we don't do that anymore. It is unfortunately not as fast as just using a weapon. I don't have to. That's fine. We have 1 muscle soda left after this, which is good. It's not usually Kurokawa who survives till the end. Neat. And again, we're trying to keep an eye on our sword durability, but the sword starts with a lot of hits, so we should be fine. We're basically going to be using the sword up until the end of the next chapter. Then anything left after that will be a bonus for coming up to the penultimate parts of the run. Again, speaking of the penultimate parts of the run, don't forget we do have the Majima Saga as a donation incentive. That'll be after the run. That'll be a nice little 10-minute chunk of playing as Majima, everyone's favorite. He's a good lad. So, Isaki is here at the acupuncture clinic. This is where you learn the Tiger Drop, by the way. You learn it off that guy, but you can't learn it until after the next chapter for reasons you'll see in this chapter. Isaki will also go down to 2 hits from the saw. This will leave me with 12. That's pretty good. We're out of muscle soda, and hey, guess what? We're going to be walking past the green vending machine right now. We are on a bit of a time limit right now because we have to go really fast. We are going to our next set piece right now. We need to go to Osaka Castle. So as much muscle soda as we can carry. That's going to be our last set of muscle soda until the penultimate chapter. And head and use the taxi. Nice. Hey. So, there are a variety of wonderful enemies in this place, some of which don't have that much in terms of dodge, and some which do. The Armored Samurai here, they don't actually have that much in terms of actual dodge. Pineda here needs to be taken care of after we've taken care of the rest of the enemies. Please, I need this sword. Thank you. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, Kunieda sometimes, if you don't do a strong thrust against him, he decides to guard a bunch. So that's used up more of this sword than I would like. A couple of QTEs in here. They're always going to occur at the same place each time, which is nice, so we know when they're going to turn up. You don't need to use a muscle soda if you're using strong thrusts, but for normal enemies like, well, for normal enemies like this, I would like to use, obviously, a muscle soda. Light attacks are really good if you can get that kind of like wide arcing swing on them. This is going to be unfortunate. This is the way to go during this maze. That was a nice hit. 8 and 12. Might be a little tight when we get to the end. We'll see. Thankfully, I still have some of the spare weapons from earlier, so we're not in too much trouble. At the moment, anyway. So now we have the random Gatling gun section. If we take care of Kunieda first, we won't get any enemy backup. Take care of the enemies on the left. Down here for these two to stop them from knocking us off this. A good ragdoll. As we said, the Dragon Engine ragdolls are fantastic. Do I want to consider a spare weapon at this point? Considering I'm going to be menuing here, probably? Yeah, considering this room. Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to equip my crowbar, and for, obviously, safety, I'm going to use a health item, and I'm going to be equipping the other nameless that we've got, which is actually one that we don't want to use up too much of. Now, even though earlier we didn't want to take care of Kunieda first, in this fight we do. These guys suck. That was actually a reasonably good fight, which is kind of rare. This crowbar is fine because we replace it, and we would replace for the nameless. Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah, these are tigers, by the way. Actual, real, genuine tigers. Their hitboxes suck. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our saw out, patience, then frost. You don't want to attack straight away because the tiger is not attackable. Wait. Obviously attack it. You will always get attacked by the tiger, which is why I took that safety heal, because I took a few too many extra hits during the blocking segment to be safe. Now, the downside to this is that the second tiger is going to go into basically their EX state, which means they're going to get more defense, a little bit more attack, so it's not going to go down in one hit like this tiger, sadly. So, this is the frustrating tiger. That missed, and that's upsetting. That's upsetting. Just don't get hit by them. Please. Need you to behave, kitty. Thank you. Now, remember when I said you can replace your weapons or anything? You see those spears on the side of the wall? Don't replace those. Those spears have very high damage, but they're really slow. And, like, for a wide-arcing weapon, you'd think they would be better, but unfortunately not. Replace them with any other weapon, just not those spears. Yeah, the tigers, as you can see there, yeah. Be careful with the charge attack that the tiger did. If that hits you multiple times, and it can, with the blockade chainmail that we've got on, if you were to go into that fight with less than half HP, you can get one shot. So you want to be a little bit careful with that fight. So we're going to go into a little bit of a small filler bit with Haruka, where we're going to go and meet this music producer down here who's going to be like, your girl, she's perfect, she could be an idol, which Haruka's going to refute and say that she never wants to be an idol, which that never happens. But in terms of this game, we're going to basically just have to go and get this phone call. In this game, we can just taxi away, which is nice. In OG2, we can just go back to the bar. My down input did not register. We've gone to Kamurocho instead. This still works, don't worry. This will still work. Just, I went on a little bit of a long detour instead. There's our phone call. Just a little bit of a long detour that wasn't necessary. It's fine. Just, you know, a couple of miles down the country. It's okay. But we will go back this way. It doesn't matter which of our taxi points we go to, because we will always get interrupted by this conversation. This one is obviously the quickest way to get back to Certain Boy Productions. We're going to be like, hey, this could be in Haruka's best interest, at which point Haruka's in trouble again. So we're going to go outside and have to deal with this rather rude individual. Language. Unbelievable. So, the nice thing is, as we said earlier, two-handed weapons are very, very good, and as you can see, there's a sign right here. I'm gonna give this man a lovely little... Really, two of them. Wow. Usually, it's just Hoshino. Usually, Hoshino, like, walks off at, like, a weird angle. Two of them's interesting. That's some pretty bad luck. Oh well. But yeah, at this point, Haruka's idol subplot is now technically done. If this was OG2, OG2 has some wonderful speed tech here. If you go back to the bar, that's a bad fight spawn. That's actually a terrible fight spawn. I'm gonna do this. That way, it just de-aggroes them, because they would get into a fight with me. Yes? Oh. We're good? We're good? Alright. Hello. All you missed at home was me running from a fight spawn. Don't worry about it. Little on the scary side, but nah, we got to the taxi in time. As I was saying, in this bit, in OG2, what you can do is you can go straight back to the bar, literally talk to Haruka, and you literally get, like, the ability to just leave this bit and just not do what we're doing now. So OG2 has this next, like, cool little skip that you can just skip this entire bit. OG2 is fantastic as well. The runs are, like, very, very different. OG2's is one of the hardest runs in the entire series. It's great. But it has, like, a lot of different speed tech to K2. Like, we actually really appreciate it because, like, it's really nice that both, like... And it's the same with OG1 and K1. It's really nice that both the original speedruns and their Kiwamis can both stand next to each other and say, hey, we have very different speedruns. And that's really cool. Like, this is obviously a very weapon-based run, and whilst OG2 uses brass knuckles are just an extension of your attacks, essentially. So, honestly, they're both very, very different, and they're both really cool. Well, Yakuza runs are very different, which is really nice. Alright. So, speaking of differences, this is going to be something that K2 excels in. So, we're going to make good use of our Dragon Engine with its wonderful physics. We're actually going to make use of the wonderful things that cause the ragdolls. So, this is the highway fight. I need to remember crowbar, nameless, gun, or in this case it's going to be nameless crowbar gun because I already equipped the nameless earlier. You can't do this in the OG game. We're going to run up to this guy, grab him, and, you know, throw him. And it gets everybody off the truck. Everybody. Thank you very much. So this is the bit where our second gun is going to come into play. Not this part, but the next part. Going to run up here, chug a muscle soda, get a fresh crowbar out, and of course, as we said earlier, oops, gun. As you can see, a bunch of enemies all gathered together. Crowbar good. Crowbar very good. The ragdolls in this are perfect. Absolutely love them. So, this is where your RNG comes in. You don't necessarily need the second gun for this bit, but it helps a lot. There is one enemy. You can see him at the back, Young. He is on another truck. To be able to get through this bit, you need to either get lucky and get a gun drop, which as you saw with the first gun, that flew off somewhere. That's no longer on the truck. Or grab his grenade and throw it back at him, which obviously has a delay to it. By us bringing a gun into this section, that eliminates all of that. A very good highway section could be done in one muscle soda. This is going to be quite tight. Yes, they are firing a rocket at us. Don't worry about it. I'm certainly not worried about it. Guess who's back? It is indeed the man in black. He is back once again. We are just going to take out our nameless katana. 1, 2, 3. If you are of a squeamish disposition, I would look away from this bit. We're going to have a lovely little arm wrestle with the man in black on top of this truck. Unfortunately, there's only one way the man in black is going, and that's that way. Ouch. Fun fact. He's not done with us yet. Despite what just happened, you will see him again. That man has survived a lot. Fair play. Fair play to that guy. So, we need to go to the Millennium Tower. Date, the Florist, and all them are in trouble, thanks to a Sleeper Jingwon agent. This is an issue. We might have to do the trick here. Oh, we're good. I'm very surprised I actually managed to pull that off. So I might have had to have done the trick where the fight would have started, and I would have had to have used the vending machine or the taxi. Usually, if you're doing a K2 run, there's usually one spot where you will have to attempt it, and that's in, actually, the next chapter. So you might get to see it. Hopefully not, because it is a little dangerous. I'm gonna put my muscle soda on and my saw. So I have a good bunch of weapons for the end game, which is good. This is Kuranashi. Undercover Jingwon agent. So hopefully we can get the good... Ah, that's bad. He's gonna shoot me. Oh, thanks. Oh, please stop dodging. This... Kuranashi is a really frustrating fight in, again, the original game, because he basically runs around the room. Again, remember, he's an enemy with a gun. Any gun enemies in OG2, they run at 100 miles an hour. And Kuranashi is one of them. So we have an old strat. I'm not actually sure if we still use it anymore. Where we have a special item that's not in K2, unfortunately, that slows down time. Now, unfortunately, because I missed the first hit on Kuranashi, unfortunately, I'm stuck having to get my weapon out again. The ideal thing to do is to hit him at the start there so that he doesn't walk away. That way, you can then quick step cancel away from his position. Then you won't get his field of heat, and then you can just take care of the rest of the enemy, and then go into the field of heat and finish the fight that way. It's something we're also going to be doing with a fight in the finale, so hopefully I can pull it off there. And that is the end of that chapter. It's 14? Okay, 14. So, 14, we've got a little bit of walking around to do. We're going to go find Kaoru at first. Kaoru's going to head over to Tenkaichi. The Goryu are heading their way to Kamurocho, their Ryuji's lot. We're going to have to deal with their shenanigans in a little bit. But essentially, Haruka's going to stay here. Uncle Majima is just over there. You can speak to him for Clan Creator if you want. Don't forget, folks, speaking of Uncle Majima, we still have the Majima Saga donation incentive. We're getting very close to time on that. If you want to see a nice little speedrun of Majima's antics in the period between Yakuza 1 and this video game, please get those donations in. And actually, that's a good point. Doxo, how are we doing on that?
Speaking of that, we have met that incentive thanks to a $130 donation from Joshua Kant, just saying Majima time.
Well, thank you so very, very much, yo.
Yeah,
you get to see the fun.
Yeah, apart from that, we have also now just opened up a Sonic Mania and Knuckles incentive for the Sonic Mania run tomorrow. Our goal for that is $250, and the bid war for that is still ongoing as well. So you now have the choice for potentially Knuckles and Knuckles.
Nice. As somebody that has just recently started speedrunning Sonic Mania, that run is fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to Sonic Block tomorrow. So please get your wonderful donations in for that incentive as well. This is the bit. So, remember what I said earlier? And I think that is an enemy spawn I can just see. Actually, no, it isn't. This is the bit where usually there's an enemy spawn that comes, like, towards us from the end of the road here. It's actually walked the other way, so I did see it, but it just went the other way. This is the best RNG you can get in this bit. If there is an enemy spawn walking towards you there, you have to do the less than a third of a second trick to be able to despawn the enemies, because you don't have a choice. There is no way to avoid them, I'm afraid. So we went and got Daigo. Daigo gave a rousing speech to the rest of the Tojo. They now see him as someone capable enough to lead the Tojo clan. That's curious. So we're going to head off to Purgatory, go and see, obviously, Majima. The Goryu basically planted... Ignore the fact he's there. It's kind of immersion breaking. He's supposed to be downstairs. The Goryu basically planted a whole bunch of bombs around Kamurocho. We are going to go and deal with the Goryu clan whilst the Tojo go and find all the bombs. To find all the bombs, we're going to make use of the Florist surveillance system. Unfortunately, the Florist surveillance system in the Millennium Tower was messed up at the end of the last chapter, so we're going to go to his old surveillance system here in Purgatory, which is owned by good old Majima Goro right now, and thankfully for us, as you'll see with Majima's happy face in the next cutscene, Majima kept it very much intact and was probably using it. Good old Majima. So, We're going to have to go and help our friends around the city. This is going to require 3 different fights. So we're going to start with a very specific route. We're going to get phone calls at the exact precise points. We're going to get our next one when we leave here in a second. And then we'll get one just as we're about to leave. Essentially, the story is in kind of like winding up to the finale mode. So we're just like doing a couple of loose ends here and there. We unfortunately have a long bit in the next chapter that we can't really do much about, which is a shame. We'll describe that when we get there. The nice thing about this phone call is it's right next to that sign, right next to that arrow, so we know exactly where we're going to get it. So avoid our friend there, and then taxis to the main tower. But essentially, all of our friends are in trouble. Our friends are Bantam, Dokimoto, and Stardust. So we're going to go and help all of them out. So the nice thing is I do have a good couple of weapon hits left over. For this first fight, this guy in front can be a little annoying, so I'm going to use the bar stool or the table for this guy. The reason being is that it obviously has a very wide swing to it. Thank you for walking in the way. Appreciate that. We can use our weapons that we have, but some of these fights go a little bit nicer with weaponry like that, just because of like the wide arc you can do to catch enemies. When we go back to Dokimoto's here, we're going to use the table again. The table is really, really good. That's one on the right. Got to be careful of that. This guy standing here is also a sub-story. You can't see sub-stories in this game without the sub-story finder upgrade. Thankfully, it's nice and cheap. Thanks to all sub-stories, we know obviously where all the sub-stories are. So let's hopefully do this one a bit better than earlier. So run forward and to the right, grab the table, spin the table. Cool. I will take that now, that's fine. Nice, good. This Monster Soda is on a bit of a time limit because we want it to last until the next one. I did put that guy, thankfully, in the doctor's bed. He's ready to be seen by Dokimoto now. And we're going to head over to Stardust. I also love all the, like, the little eateries and signs and stuff. That takeaway place was called P Nice Pizza. Pretty nice pizza. Pretty nice pizza. Alright, so for this last one, we do want to use weapons. And it's very important we aim for the guy on the left. The one that doesn't have a weapon. He's a pain in the backside. If we let him basically start walking around, we're going to have issues. He has a lot of dodge, a lot of guard. I'm going to take care of all of you. That's a shame I missed that. If I could have got that hit, that would have been a decent end, but unfortunately not. And that's the end of that chapter. The penultimate chapter doesn't have that much to it. We've been looking for a bit of speed tech in this chapter for a very long time, but unfortunately we've never been able to find it, which is unfortunate because the thing that we were hoping to skip in this chapter is something that is actually skippable in Yakuza 0, and it's exactly the same thing. And unfortunately, the same kind of thing that we want to skip also makes an appearance in Judgment, and it's also unskippable there. There is a way to slightly skip it, but it requires New Game Plus, which obviously this is an any % run. But essentially, we are going to be picking up Haruka here, and we're supposed to spend some time with Haruka, which that basically constitutes as 3 minutes of in-game time. So the time is going to stop during certain portions. When we actually use like any kind of menu here, for example, it's going to stop. So what we're going to do is going to get our last set of Monster Soda here. That will last us through the entirety of the finale. Then we're going to taxi to Tenkaichi. The quickest, the way to do this with proper time is to actually run over here, but it's only like the difference is like if you have good menuing, like 0.4 of a second, so it doesn't really matter either way. But I'm just gonna go first person. Look at this lovely little door that stops us from getting any of the AFK messages for standing around. Those AFK messages stop the phone call from coming in, but with OG1, we used to be able to skip these time waiting segments by going to the arcade and playing an arcade game and just quitting out of it. Unfortunately, that doesn't work in the Dragon Engine, and we've been looking for a long time for like a way to skip this 3-minute section. There is a way, but it requires you to load up a save that has been at the very end, or like it requires you to load up, I believe, a save at the time waiting segment near the end of it, so that the game counts that time as being used, reload the original save, and then that counts the time down, which is why it kind of has to be New Game Plus. and unfortunately it doesn't work from a fresh file. It works on, like, a loaded file, but it doesn't work on a new, fresh any % file, which is a shame. So, unfortunately, we don't have any speed tech for this, so I'm be staring at this door for 2 minutes, so if you've got any messages, again, now is the best time of the entire run.
Yes, our favorite, doors.
It's a nice looking door.
Well, in that case, I will just bring up that you are currently still watching Fast Pace for Prey 2023 and Benefit and Date. We don't have if you'd like to know more about Date, Date's work on human rights focuses on advancing political mobilization to defend and promote the inclusion of transgender, diverse, and intersex people at the global level. Some of the ways that they do this is by providing support for engaging with UN bodies and processes, co-hosting UN Trans Advocacy Week, a collective project by non-governmental organizations offering trans activists a platform to make their voices heard on a global scale and in international human rights spaces. And then finally, definitely be looking out for the runs that we have tomorrow. For example, we have, apart from our Sonic blog and eventually our later Kirby blog, that the start of our first run that day will be Pokemon Scarlet Path of Legends, which should also be a pretty interesting run.
That sounds like a really good day tomorrow, actually. Looking forward to chilling with the marathon on myself. That's a frustrating fight spawn. That's been my assist. Then I have to use tricks, so taxi, and press X at the right time. Cool. Oh dear, oh dear. That's like the last time that we're ever gonna have a problem with a fight spawn. That was a really bad one. Alright. So, finale of the video game. I'm gonna get into it really, really fast. With Yakuza 2, you can just start the finale immediately, which is what we're gonna do. I'm going to be going on what we have dubbed the one weapon route. It's going to use more than one weapon, don't worry about it. This actually, I think I was the one who came up with the majority of at least the first part of this, so it's like kind of nice that it's like stood the test of time in terms of like the route still. So, nice RNG at the very start again. The enemies here are all going to run towards us. We want the enemies behind us to hopefully all get towards us. There's one enemy in both the front group and the back group that can kind of stay behind. Moon is the one for that one, so we're all good. And we're going to go over here and grab the Darkwood Sword. This is the upgraded version of the Oakwood Sword. As you'll see as we run through this finale, there's a bunch of weapons everywhere. And they're all really good. All the weapons that you'll see on the floor are some of the best weapons in the game. So, we'll be grabbing a couple at points, but the reason why we're calling this the one weapon route is because we're going to use the one weapon. Right hand side, you'll see that guy over there, Seo. He doesn't usually activate his AI unless you specifically go into this bit. That's unfortunate. What we said about if we don't own the weapon earlier, that's now gone, so now we have to do the backup strat and pick up this pipe. I don't have to worry too much about the gun guys unless you're like on low HP. We do have a safety heal, which I will be picking up in this bit. But yeah, no. If you don't own the weapon and you get tapped by an enemy to the ground, as you can see, you lose that weapon. But again, thankfully, there's just a bunch of other weapons just like all over the road. Like, you can just grab, as we said earlier, you just grab anything. You just grab anything and just like use any of the weapons and it just works. That's the nice thing about K2 as a run, is if something like just goes wrong, you just rectify it. Not with the stick. Don't pick up the stick. The sticks are terrible. When I said most two-handed weapons are good, I don't mean those sticks. Sticks and weirdly baseball bats. You'd think baseball bats would be good, but it really depends on the Yakuza game. But we're going to put those weapons away. We go this pathway specifically to avoid a bunch of guys with rocket launchers. Get a free full heal from this Toughness Infinity when we want to use it. And then we have one more sword here. So, yes, we used more than the one, but it's the same weapon. That's why it's the one set weapon route, I promise. And again, if you lose this one, there's the Chinese saber on the floor here, which is good. But we really want to keep this weapon. These two, they're a pain in the backside, but they cannot be. I'm going to leave them here. Hopefully, I didn't get my pause in time. That would have been a perfect hit. Essentially, if you can get them both at the same time in the muscle soda, this QTE takes care of both of them in one hit. He might be low enough HP. No, he's not. If he's not, it's not too much to be able to rectify it. You just hit him with that. At this point, I am holding L2. That is the center camera button, and also it's the button that you hold to not do heat attacks. There is fight tech in this portion here. If you see at the very end, the entrance to Purgatory, we want to keep the camera focused very much on that end part. Because if you don't, enemies will spawn from there, and unfortunately, they have to run all the way down here. Excuse you. Thank you. So, if the enemies spawn down there, you have to wait for them to come to you or you to run to them. In this part, we want to be very careful. These enemies have grenades. And if you hit the grenades, you can probably guess what's going to happen. And because we don't technically own this sword, we will drop this sword. But again, bunch of weapons all around. I mistakenly didn't do a menu I was supposed to do there. I was supposed to equip the Darkwood Sword and the Chinese Saber that we picked up earlier. You can see that they're pretty strong weapons, again, from their attack value there. Once again, for the final time, told you, wasn't done yet. Here is the man in black. Where did he come from? I don't actually know where he came from. He came from up. And with that, that is the final end of the man in black. It has finally happened. He has gone through a lot in this run. more than we have, to be honest. This entire finale is terrifying in OG2. In OG2, we go to low HP, and specifically in this screen, we get a accessory that increases your damage. It's the payback ring. Increases your damage when your HP is low. OG2's finale is very scary. K2's is a little easier to get through. This is Ryuji. We're going to take him out the same way that we took him out earlier. So, get out the Chinese Saber. One hit to fill up our heat. Heat attack. Good attack as he's getting up off the floor. That's a problem. I have never hit that early in a long time. Actual years. I'm just going to have to stab him a couple of extra times now. Camera? I have to be a little careful because I need this sword for... Right, if he hits you, he puts it away. I forgot about that. I need this sword for Ryuji. Now, I know that sounds a bit weird when we're fighting Ryuji. Just trust me on this one. Well, he puts your sword away. That's why you don't miss the hit. If you don't miss the hit, Ryuji is 1 HP, and you just remind him that he's in Feel the Heat range, as per usual. Wonderful. Remember when I said that Terrada was dead earlier in the game? Yeah, about that. He's here, and his name is Daejun Kim. Play the video game if you want to find out more. But essentially, we have Daejun Kim lore, we have Daejun Kim strats, we are going to get out the Oakwood Sword and hopefully hit him with it, with all those attacks. We're going to not do this QTE, but we are going to do this QTE. I'm just going to put Daejun Kim on 1 HP. We're going to quick step cancel backwards so that once again, we don't put the weapon away. I should be using strong attacks here, not the light attacks. That'll be our last muscle soda for the run. And once all the enemies are gone, we just go after Daejun Kim. Daejun Kim's Feel the Heat is one of those that puts your weapon away. Hence why if you dodge backwards, take care of the ads first, you don't have to worry about getting your weapon out again. Because it's really annoying to deal with the enemy. Then we have one final boss coming up. And again, thankfully, you might be wondering, like earlier, why we put our attack at 174 precisely. With 174, the red binding that the game gave us at the very start, and the Bloodcake Chainmail, we are on the precise attack value to be able to hit Ryuji once without him going into phase 2. If we went even 1 point of attack higher, we would have an extremely short window to be able to pull off this heat move, which is doable, but it is very, very tight. It's not 1 frame, but it's like 2 or 3 frames. Didn't miss you this time, buddy. So make sure you get that attack on Wake Up. It's very strong, as you can see. It's like 2 HP bars worth of damage. And time is coming up in a bit, not just yet. 1 hit here. Time will be on this QTE coming up here. Just those things. And that's time. It's time for the any percent anyway. We've got some Majima to do.
It is now indeed Majima time.
Heck yeah. Whilst we set that up, whilst I get back to the main menu, if you've got any messages now, again, would be a perfect time, because we're not going to have much time during Majima.
Which is very, very fair. Other than offering my own GGs to all of that.
Thank you.
I will, actually, you know what? I know what I can check. How are we doing on our character choice? For Sonic Mania character choice, Knuckles is still currently in the lead, but Tails is very close to closing that gap. So if you want Knuckles and Knuckles, and I know there's several who probably do, might want to try to make sure Knuckles keeps that lead.
That's turning out to be a pretty good bid war. Alright, well, we are ready. Hopefully, Turkey, you are ready on time. We are gonna go, obviously, when we hit easy. So, once again, 3, 2, 1, go. So, this is Majima Saga. This is a small little bit of Majima set between the events of Yakuza 1 and what you just saw with Yakuza 2. So, essentially, there is a big commotion going down in Tojo HQ. Ignore that guy. That guy is a menace. We'll talk about him later. Majima and everybody, all the other lieutenants of the Tojo, we're basically trying to get money together as part of something that Terada is scheming together. And essentially, the Tojo, basically the Tojo lieutenant who gets the most money gets to become Terada's right-hand man. Majima wins by a giant margin, because Majima has obviously got the idea of Kamurocho kills. So, we're going to head to Kamurocho, and we're going to get into Majima gameplay immediately. Majima Saga gameplay is actually very different to the main any percent for a lot of different reasons. Firstly, fighting. So, Majima is not Kiryu. Majima knows the age-old method of spin to win. Unfortunately, Majima's best attack is a spin attack. The majority of the damage is on the last hit, as you can see. So, what we're going to be doing is trying to hopefully line up enemies. I do not know what's going on with that one enemy down the bottom who is not actually aggroed. Hello. Little on the late side, Sugita. Sometimes enemy AI doesn't start for some reason. It's a little weird, but yep, that's one of those times. Essentially, because this is such a short run, you really need the enemy to be aggressive and to also, like, line up together. If you look at the minimap really quickly, when we come out of the Millennium Tower at the top there, you'll see that the enemies there are actually on the minimap in a specific place. This is actually a little bit of a callback to the earlier Yakuza games, where all the fight spawns are actually in fixed locations. So, because of that, we know where all the fight spawns are going to be able to get the most optimal route to get from point A to point B. So, somebody has attacked Majima's men, and we think it is one of the other Tojo lieutenants, Uematsu. So we're going to have a nice civilized conversation with the guy. This guy on the right-hand side, if you look on the minimap, you'll see he has like a skull icon. He's one of the street bosses. As part of Majima Saga, there are a couple of street bosses you can do. We have a category for all street bosses, which features way more spinning. Lots and lots of spinning. But essentially, we're going to end up going to the Uematsu family office, and we're going to find out that things aren't doing too good, because unfortunately, not only were Majima's men attacked, so were Uematsu's, and in a much, much worse way. Somebody broke all the bikes outside. Unbelievable. Again, if you live in Kamurocho, you really do need some bike insurance. The one thing you do not want in Kamurocho is a bike. It will not last the week, I'm afraid. But essentially, we're going to go to Majima's Chapter 2 immediately. There's going to be a lot of tension mounting between all the Tojo lieutenants. And essentially, Majima's getting frustrated because it's clear that someone's attacking them. And there's presumably a traitor. Which, yes, there is. But here's some of the rest of Uematsu's family members. They're obviously upset at what's happened. They think we did it when, you know, we were also attacked, so it wasn't us. So, one thing with Majima Saga, for fights like this, where using a spin wouldn't be great, the way to end fights quicker in Majima Saga is the attack animation of Majima. So, whilst obviously for the most part for damage we want to do the spin, in some situations like that, the spin would be slower than doing a normal combo, because the normal combo Majima just puts his dagger away immediately. Whereas the spin, you have to wait for the spin's animation to finish and then, you know, wait for that to do it. So, a lot of Majima Saga as well as a lot of cutting down on animations. This is also very optimized as a run, but there is a lot of RNG to this run. Enemy positioning is so vitally important in this run. And obviously if you just get really bad, like, RNG in terms of, like, what the enemy do, there's nothing you can do about it. And that's unfortunate. So it's a very quick and fast-paced run. It is technically the fastest run that we have. It's technically not main line, because it's obviously a side game that only happened in, obviously, like, the remake. But it is the quickest run that we've got. You like to hope 8 minutes is the quickest run we got. Kaito Files, the DLC for Lost Judgment, coming in second at just under an hour. Which is really nice and gives you a nice chunk of a good Kaito gameplay. Hey, so once we leave the Grand, and yes, Majima does go back to the Grand, you get a nice little bit of dialogue about the Grand. Here's some dudes. Some mysterious assassins sent by whoever went after Uematsu. They think that they can take care of Majima, which is kind of fun. It's unfortunate. If I could have hit Furuya there, that would have been a pretty good spin. See, this is the unfortunate thing, as you can see. Most of your damage on, and again, you can tell here we're just going to do the one attack. Most of your damage when it's the spin is basically in the last hit. So, Majima obviously knows Sotenbori from his time here in Yakuza 0, so we're going to go get the lay of the land from one of the people that we met in Yakuza 0 who was the host of Odyssey, which was a club that's here that's now called Andromeda. And he's going to tell us to go get a massage at Higuchi Kaikan, which is not what the massage... Well, it was the massage place that was in Yakuza 0. You might remember that if you played 0. It should give you a couple of feels. So yeah, again, it just matters on like where the enemy here just all line up. And unfortunately, this one enemy that I needed to hit wasn't lined up too well. And when we get to good old Higuchi Kaikan, we meet up with a little bit of a surprise. A certain character called Makoto Nakamura. Yes, that Makoto from Yakuza 0. At which point, obviously, all the feelings from Yakuza 0 come back into play. Makoto, this is a nice... This actually, Majima Saga serves as a really nice epilogue to Yakuza 0. And essentially serves as, like, kind of like a goodbye to Majima and Makoto's storyline. It's really bittersweet. The staff member there says that Makoto is moving to America. And, yeah, it plays out in a really nice, sweet scene, actually, which is actually kind of nice. Anyway, we're in the final chapter and going up against the final two bosses. So Majima doesn't exactly have that big of a moveset unlike Kiryu. He doesn't have any, like, abilities that he can learn either. So he does have his R1 triangle counter from his Mad Dog style in 0. Here's the issue. The normal boss has a gun. Here's the other issue. Final boss has a gun. You're not countering a gun. So what we're going to do is going to spin. Now, if any of our bosses don't move, they have stored up a dodge or a guard. If they get up immediately, we can spin. So essentially, based on what they do, is going to influence what I do. So I'm paying very close attention to everything they do to try and basically manipulate their AI. And remember I said we talked about this guy earlier? This guy's name is Kei Ibuchi. one of the most annoying bosses in any Yakuza game. He's also voiced by Dio. Great. So this is the final boss, by the way. As I said, Majima Saga is pretty fast. You get a cool dynamic intro, though. So, reason why Ibuchi is a pain in the backside, Ibuchi has one of the best counters in this entire series. He can counter anything. I mean anything. So again, if he does that, we know he's not going to dodge. That's unfortunate. He will if I don't attack him here. There you go. That's why I was trying to get the heat attack off. Ooh, you're being a pain today. So I'm going to do this. This will reset his position. He also has an EX mode. Now, whenever you use a heat attack, the enemy, unless they get up immediately like Kawamura did, they will be in the same position as before. Shoot. Yep. Don't do the counter. I don't want to see it. So if he doesn't move, as you can see there, I'm going to make sure that I do the heat attacks. That resets his position and what he's going to do. Alright. I actually do hope he's not going to do it. Time will be when he runs out of HP, by the way. There's no fancy QT this time. Should have done a heat attack. Wow, he's aggressive today. You need to stop that, sir. And that's time. Wow, okay. He just decided to be really aggressive for once. Cool. He didn't actually throw out the counter, which is nice because this man's counter is really nasty. You'd think that your spin and, obviously interrupting his animation would stop him from using the counter. Incorrect. The man does not care. He has hyper armor on the counter. He counters anything. And I can't counter him because he has a gun. Well, that's Majima Saga. That's Ibuchi. That's Majima Saga. Thank you very much for your generous donations so we could do this short Majima run. Very much appreciate it. You're all donating to a fantastic cause. I guess for my quick ending stuff, once again, thanks to the Yakuza Speedrun community. If you want to learn a Yakuza run, we have a Discord linked on every speedrun.com page. You know the drill. I want to thank, again, the fast-paced events staff, everyone who's been working hard so far and who will be working hard for the next couple of days. Thank you all very much. Thank you once again for allowing me to showcase the Yakuza game. And, yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Have a good rest of the marathon.
Before that, where do people find you?
True. Twitch.tv/Froob.
There you go.